I'm a little bit disappointed that Warner Brothers didn't use my suggestion for a movie title. I even made a poster and everything, so here's my suggestion for the sequel. The Nun 2, Back in the Habit. By the way, I realize I still sound like Daffy Duck, but the braces aren't coming off anytime soon, so hold on to your butts. She's back in black and hit the sack. She's been too long and glad to be back. Sister Irene is sent to investigate the murder of a priest, only to discover that the demon she previously confronted has now possessed a handyman named Maurice, who is none the wiser. Get it? Because of none? I was surprised to hear about a sequel to a movie that wasn't very popular to say the least, and with good reason. Because the original was very hard to pay attention to. I think I actually fell asleep watching that movie. So, is this sequel any better? Well, yes. But only until the second act. You know, I wasn't expecting much, but the first half hour of this movie was surprisingly fun to watch. I thought the opening sequence was very creative. The scares weren't predictable jump scares, but rather subtle and creepy. It really set the mood, and it even started off pretty violent. So I was pretty shocked at how good this movie was. And then the rest of the movie happened. The Nun 2 was directed by Michael Chaves, who also directed The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. It follows two storylines. We have Sister Irene investigating murders with another sister. I think her name was Deborah. And the storyline of Frenchie, the possessed man from the first film, now working as a handyman at a French boarding school. However, before those storylines intersect, there's a lot of filler. And instead of building tension, it ends up slowing down the narrative. This movie is almost 2 hours long, and trust me when I say it did not need to be. Don't get me wrong, it's a competent film, it's very well shot, but it stops being fun to watch pretty early on. I recently saw Cobweb, and if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. It keeps the tension up and the story flowing, it's got great atmosphere and cinematography, but most of all, it's a tight 1 hour and 28 minutes. But this movie has about 40 minutes of Taissa Farmiga and Storm Reid on what feels like a never-ending Scooby-Doo adventure. And in the meantime, spooky stuff is happening back at the school. And besides that, there are some poor attempts at character development that never go anywhere. For example, this one sister, I think her name was Deborah. At the beginning of the movie, she's questioning her faith. And I thought that was going to be an important part of the story. But no, she goes from doubting her faith to fully believing in demons in just a few scenes. Her questioning her beliefs never come into play again. And there's also this romance between a teacher and Frenchie. The teacher has a daughter who gets bullied for no reason. And I was waiting for those school bullies to get their comeuppance, I guess. But none of that happens. There's a lot of none happening in this film. And considering that strong opening, it's a little disappointing. And by the time the third act rolls around, unfortunately the movie devolves into cheap jump scares and loud noises, and the entire ending is just so uninspired. It basically turns into a video game. I do like that this movie incorporated something that actually exists, but this is a minor spoiler, so So at some point, we find out that the demon Valak is after a holy relic, the eyes of Saint Lucy. And that's not a metaphor, by the way. It's literally a pair of eyes that somehow have been preserved in a piece of cloth. But apparently, Saint Lucy is an actual Catholic saint. There's even a Saint Lucy's Day with special treats that are made to look like eyeballs. So I do like the idea of this MacGuffin, but the execution, not so much. So in the end, this movie had a great opening, but a slow middle and a ridiculous ending with lots of screaming girls and cheap jump scares. It's almost like someone remembered halfway they were marketing this movie towards teenagers, because the ending is just awful. And it's too bad because I really like the first half hour, but unfortunately, I do not recommend The Nun 2 Back in the Habit. Holy water? None for me, thanks. Sister Irene should have fought the demons with nunchucks. This movie wasn't non-stop fun. I really hope these sequels aren't becoming a habit. This movie could have used a divine intervention. How do you know when a nun is upset? She looks cross. How do you make holy water? By boiling the hell out of it. What did the nun say at the salad bar? Let us pray. A priest, a nun, and a rabbi walk into a bar, and the bartender goes, "What is this, a joke? What do you call a nun doing yoga?" Twisted sister. Okay, that's enough.